Welcome to Film Chats podcast, conversations with Ottawa's film, TV, and media community, presented by Digi60 Filmmakers Festival. I'm your host, Olivia Kiryk-Clutterbuck, and on today's episode, I'll be talking with Carly Brenner Hunter. From a very young age, Carly loved the water, and into her late teens, early 20s, she was able to combine her love of water with her love of film, becoming an underwater cinematographer. Now, she not only does the cinematography side of things, but she also handles the water safety side of things on set as well. I learned so much from Carly, and aspects of filming that I never would have thought about if it hadn't been for the preparation leading up to this interview, and then of course actually talking with her and listening to her. I hope this opens up those creative juices that everyone has. If you're into photography and have a diving background or a swimming background, definitely take a look at Carly's info. And yes, I just hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for joining us today, Carly. Would you mind telling us a bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Carly. I own and run a water safety company in the film industry, which all started with me working in the camera department, kind of climbing the ladder there. I've always been obsessed with water, swimming, lifeguarding, you name it. It put me through college and summer camps and whatever. And then I learned to scuba dive in my early 20s, completely fell in love with the sport and decided that I was going to do that with the rest of my life, and somehow managed to do so. So I am not a dive instructor. I do not work in the recreational dive community. I am a certified commercial diver that shoots films underwater. And with that comes water safety. So I do all of that.
That's really cool. When did you know you wanted to get into visual storytelling?
Probably very young. My brother was a stage actor. So I was dragged to audition after audition after audition, to the point where a lot of the casting agents were like, oh, what about her? And I could not act at all. So I guess through high school, I started directing plays and short films, and kind of like, high school corporate shows, that kind of stuff. And if you look back at my family, I'm not in a lot of family photos because I was the photographer. So it just kind of made sense for me to go that route.
That's both really entertaining that you were just kind of dragged and people were like, what about her? And then also kind of sad that you're not in many of the family photos.
Well, to the point where I got headshots done when I was like 12 years old or something like that, and auditioned for like maybe 3 commercials and just didn't care to, but they always wanted me to apply. I had an agent, they sent me, and I wasn't really that interested. And even like auditioning for high school plays, I never got into the play. I was always behind the scenes, being the director, stage manager, lighting, whatever. So again, I was doomed to be in the arts world, I should say, and have managed to make a really thriving career out of it.
That's always a bonus, getting the thriving part of that career, the thriving. What was your first creative project and what did you learn from it?
I was still in college. I went to Niagara College for film and broadcasting, with a focus in film. And I became the sound recordist. And instead of camera, I focused on sound. Honestly, it was easy for me to just kind of fall into that route. And so I started going, online and finding classifieds looking for volunteer film techs, whatever. And I ended up being the sound recorder on a Ryerson student film in the forest in, I think it was like late October, early November, something like that. I was freezing cold. I sat in the woods just shivering, and I was watching the camera department running around, busy, pulling off layers because they were sweaty, just right in the action. And I was sitting there bored, falling asleep, just not interested. I was needed for, however long a take was, and then I would sit there waiting. So it just was so uninteresting to me. And that was my first set outside of Niagara College. despite it being another student film, it was like, oh, I'm not doing the right job here. And I basically went back to school. I actually became the teacher's assistant, um, and was teaching tutorials on film and how to load the cameras, how to pull focus, um, all about different T-stops, film stock, all that stuff. Yes, film stock. I'm aging myself a little bit. Um, and then I volunteered on a Canadian Film Centre shoot a couple months later, and I got walked in as a PA. Um, and but I had a personal connection with the director, and he knew that I had an interest in camera, so he literally took me by the hand and introduced me to the first and the second AC and the DP, and said, "This is your dedicated PA." And I was credited that week as the camera trainee, and that was it. I never looked back out of the camera department. It was, I should say that I ended up as a grip for a little while. That's a whole different story. But I knew that my focus was camera, and always has been and always will be.
Well, you just answered my next question, which was going to be, how'd you get into cinematography? So that worked out, two birds, one stone.
yeah, kind of. I mean, it's kind of a natural progression in the camera department if that's where you're headed. I'd say my cinematography is more so with my underwater work, but I have shot a handful of short films, corporate videos, that kind of thing.
Do people more approach you for your specific skill set?
I am certainly approached for my skill set. I'm very much so, or I like to think I am a team player. In terms of, I would rather learn from another or somebody else learn from me, and work together to do something. Yeah, especially with water, a lot of people come my way because they just know me for my water work. And there's sometimes a crossover, like a short film that I shot, had that cross where most of it was what I call topside, but it was dry. But there was a water portion of it. So it made sense for me to be there and actually shoot the whole movie rather than bringing in other people.
What made you decide to combine the cinematography with the underwater aspect? Was there anything like that really just sparked that interest, or did it just come organically?
Totally organic. When I was a camera trainee with I.A.T.S.E 667, I saw one water set, and I was actually on A camera, and it was B camera doing the water set in a different stage. And just kept running in there. It was like I had to watch. I left my camera and I just went in the other stage, and I was just watching and asking questions. And basically between upgrading from camera trainee to second AC, I actually took off 4 months and went traveling. And my first stop was to learn to scuba dive so that I could travel and dive everywhere. And literally the first drink of air in the pool, I stood up out of the water and was like, I'm doing this with the rest of my life. And it just, to be honest, I wanted to leave the film industry, not totally, but I wanted to study marine biology so that I could get out there and shoot and study with like large marine, pelagic, keep traveling. I had the total travel bug. Me and science don't get along so well. So I actually came back to the film industry, and ultimately I was always going to combine everything. I just thought that there was this middle ground that I needed. Turns out I don't need that. I shoot drama. I have shot documentary. I would love to shoot documentary. Really would. Yeah. But it was a total natural progression. Instead of 4 years of university or 6 years of university to become a marine biologist, I went straight to Seneca College for commercial diving so that I could become a commercial diver and follow regulation and work in Canada and actually worldwide as a underwater cinematographer.
So with filming underwater, there has to be a lot of technical aspects as far as, the lighting, sound, the camera housing. Could you just tell us a little bit about all that behind the scenes technical aspect?
Sure. Yeah, a lot goes into it. Absolutely. When I work with the underwater camera housings, I become an expert in different brands of underwater housings. I know the Hydroflex inside and out. I know the Gates housings inside and out. I know a handful of the Nauticam housings. I know Isolate housings. There's all sorts of different housings for whatever your purposes, your needs, whatever. Even down to splash bags that I know better than most people. I know that sounds really simple, but they actually can, contain some electronics in a splash bag. My main goal and a successful day, aside from getting the shot, is keeping that camera dry. If you think about it, we're putting in, next week I'm using a Sony Venice cinema camera, ballpark $80,000 camera body. You're putting another $100,000 lens on it. I've got to keep those safe. Do floods happen? They have. Do I let them happen? I try very hard not to. I've had one in history. My rule on set is you're not allowed to joke about a wet camera because it will happen if you joke about it. And not even joking, when it happened, the director literally said to me, "So what happens if it gets wet?" And the alarm went off, the monitor shut down, and I was like, "Get it out!" And the camera was completely fine. Amazingly, yes, electronics can get wet. There was very minor damage done only to the battery. Perfect. So that is a big factor. I take one prep day to make sure that I've cleaned, I've inspected the camera housing. And not only that, I have an assistant that I work with who also has to mount the camera, fit the lenses, fit the motors, make sure all the cables work, everything's interacting together. One day is a rush job, and I only ever get one day to do these housings. In terms of lighting, I'm sometimes with for lighting, but typically, especially on union TV series or feature films, they have a cinematographer. I show up, I get the shot. That's not really my job, but I will certainly help. If they ask, I'm obviously going to give my knowledge. Sometimes they take it, often they don't. And then in terms of actually setting up the lights, or blacking out a pool, rigging, scaffolding, platforms, whatever we need in the pool, set design, build, stuff like that, I can consult and then I can help build. So I do have membership as a grip as well with I.A.T.S.E 873, and a lot of my commercial divers on my crew are either I.A.T.S.E 667 or I.A.T.S.E 873 members. Meaning that we know film sets, we know how to rig, we know how to build, we know what you need. We also know, where to be when the shot is happening. So I've even gone as far as the camera was actually on a crane, but underwater, and I lit the talent with an underwater flashlight, and I was actually swimming alongside them behind the camera lighting as the shot was going. Done stuff like that. I've also placed lights. I've blacked out countless pools. We've put in green screens in pools. We've put in set pieces. We've picked up set pieces. Next week, I've got a commercial going out where I actually have a diver dedicated to art department, so that he can dive down to the bottom of the pool, pick up the props, bring them back, go again, let's do it over, that kind of thing. So we really, anything involving the water, we do.
That's really fascinating. For the housing and the bags that you had mentioned, do they differ depending on like the water and the camera, or just more so the technology being used?
Good question. Both. There's a housing called Hydroflex. It's the Mark V, I believe. That I call it a giant bullet. It's literally, you can't see my hands. It's huge. This is really small. It's really big. Out of water, it weighs, I believe, 67 pounds without a camera. In water, we make it neutral. It fits, I think, 25 different variations of cameras. Everything from an Alexa Mini to the Alexa SXT, the Sony Venice I've put in it. The AirCam 435 can go in it. It's a really incredible tool, but it's not always the best option for the job. I've been on jobs that needs a mini specifically because of the size of where you've got to fit to get the shot, or having to lift something overhead, which this housing, it's not possible. So the Gates makes camera specific housings. So a colleague of mine owned, and these ones are actually privately owned, or you can rent them through Gates as well. Um, she owns two different Alexa Minis, so that's pretty great. That I really love those housings because they're camera specific. They fit better. They're petite. They're trimmed. They're all of those things, but it doesn't always make sense. The Hydroflex is the kind of more well-known one. They are by rental only, straight from Hydroflex, which is um, they again they're big and they're bulky, but they're a workhorse. So there's that. And then I personally own a Sony A7S II that's in a Naughty Cam housing. So that's more of, I got the budget option. I've shot countless music videos, short films, and commercials on it. I've rented it out as an additional camera on a couple TV series. I've used it on a couple TV series when it's just like get one shot, because they're shooting the 4K full frame. So they're getting a great option, but it is more of a budgeted rental than going Hydroflex. I don't need a prep day for it because I personally own it, so I just maintain it and bring it to work. I don't need a camera assistant for it. I'm very self-sufficient with it, whereas with the other ones, I require an assistant. The Gates housing I can do alone. I have done it alone. It's a lot of work and it makes me go very slow for me to tech, shoot, pull focus, all of that. But one of the beauties of it is that I don't have to be tethered with the Gates. Hydroflex must be tethered. There's no way around that. I need power. I need a focus puller. I need all of that stuff. So I am tethered and I rely on another human.
That's really interesting. What would your ideal water conditions be for filming?
Crystal clear, nice and warm. So typically, if I'm shooting in like a purpose-built tank, the water should be crystal clear because it's been sitting there and filtered. They also raise the temperature to usually just above body temperature, and that's to keep the actors warm. For me, it's honestly too warm because I'm fully submerged, so it's not ideal for me. But in a cooler pool, I can control my body temperature with my exposure suit, so I actually don't mind it being a little bit cooler, especially when I'm spending all day. And visibility. Visibility is the most important thing to me when I'm shooting. It's not only my job to keep the camera dry, it's my job to make everything look really cool. And if you can't see what we're shooting, what's the point? So keeping that water clean is really important. A memory that sticks out very clearly in my head is one day I watched a wardrobe girl literally wring out a dirty towel that she had just dried off one of the actors in. And I could see like dirty water pouring back into the pool. And I was like, please stop what you're doing right now. And she's like, why? Where am I going to drain it? I was like, elsewhere? Like on the floor? The floor is fine. Not back into the pool, please. Yeah, right? A bucket would actually be a really good idea. But yeah, I need clear water. Take me to the Andaman Sea. That would be amazing.
That's awesome. What's the difference between filming like in a pool or a tank versus in the open water?
Oh, lots of differences. Conditions. So we would call it confined versus open water. So confined water is completely controlled conditions. Even if you're in a wave pool, it's confined space. It's meant to be the conditions that it's set up to be. You can control the temperature, you can control the filtration, you can control the environment. If you're exterior, typically we shoot overnight actually so that you can control the lighting, unless it's meant to be daytime. In the ocean or in the lakes, I shoot in the Great Lakes a lot. You are at the mercy of the weather, the water conditions, the wind, the visibility, depending on where you're going. I'm in Toronto. They often want to shoot in Lake Ontario. And my answer is we can see if we can, but I can't promise you that we will have any visibility. And they're always like, well, when is it the best? If you're planning this in 4 weeks from now, a little bit of rain the day before or the day of, and you could lose everything. Or you could get really lucky. It really depends where you go. The few times that I have shot in Lake Ontario, we basically just keep stopping, jumping in, take a look. This is good. Yeah, this will do. Or nope, not at all. Carry on. And we go to the next site. In Georgian Bay, I can promise you we're going to have visibility.
So with visibility being the main thing, how do you pick your locations when you're having to actually be on location somewhere?
There's a couple ways that I could choose a location. One that stands out in my mind, either way, is a location scout. No matter what, if I can, I want to be a part of that scout. Knowing where I've shot before is super helpful. Knowing different bodies of water is super helpful. I know Tobermory inside and out. I know the shipwrecks. I know where you're going to find nice rocks. I know what time of day you're going to get great lighting. So I've been a regular there for 8 years. So if somebody wants to shoot in open water, I always suggest Tobermory. The one that stands out in my mind for a location scout, on Lock and Key, a Netflix series, in 2019, wanted to shoot in a quarry. And I said, I don't think you're going to get very good visibility in there. Why don't I go out there with my Sony and take a look? So I literally grabbed a friend. I treated them to lunch. I met the location manager at quarry. And my friend and I went for a swim, and I took a handful of photos. The water looked like milk. I could not see her. She was about 3 feet in front of me, and I could not see her. I could see just a very faint silhouette. With that said, we ended up on a boat in Lake Ontario, hopping in. We got lucky with conditions the day that they booked. And we literally stopped somewhere. I actually hung off the back of the boat, put my face in the water, and went, no, I can't see very much here. Let's carry on. Went to the next site, did the same thing. And sure enough, it was like, okay, this is good enough. Let's do it here. We did that similarly in Lake Nipissing up in North Bay. We had a local boat operator, and my vessel was out there as well. So my boat was the diving platform, and their boat was for the talent to be on until we were in the water. Pardon me. And we did the same thing. And we actually did that more so because there was blue algae there, and you cannot go swimming in blue algae. It's completely toxic. And Lake Nipissing, unfortunately, has been riddled with it for a couple of years now. You can get very, very, very sick. So with that, what we were doing is actually doing kind of like water testing instead of visibility. Because we were actually shooting just at the surface. So it was a bit of a split shot. So I didn't really care about visibility, but I needed to make sure that I wasn't going to hurt myself, my rescue diver, or 2 actors that was getting in the water with me. So we basically took a clear bottle and we were testing the water, and everywhere we kept going. It typically rides closer to shore. So the farther out we went, the less we were finding. And then we finally found a spot that the water bottle that we picked up was completely clear. So we felt comfortable that we could go in there.
Well, I just learned something new about blue algae, so there we go.
Yeah. Toxic. Has been known to kill dogs within 24 hours.
Oh my
And you don't even
gosh.
know. It's like no warnings, no nothing. Yeah, and it's really become a big problem in Ontario.
Well, damn.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It is. Yeah.
Wow. So with your work as a diver and with safety, you're able to support other industries like the marine and water rescue, I read on your website. Have you had the opportunity to work on a project that bridges both the cinematography side and, water rescue, or?
Yeah. So my main bread and butter these days is actually my water safety company. The camera operating to me is now fun, and it's become my specialty, and I'm an expert in it. But along with that, especially in Canada, there's a lot of regulations you need to follow. So I have memorized regulation after regulation after regulation. And with my commercial diving comes a commercial dive team. So now I coordinate water shoots. And it was the most beneficial actually while I was pregnant last year. And I could still work because I have a water safety company. So I was actually just coordinating and consulting while I was pregnant and couldn't be diving. I would show up on set when I had to, also when I wanted to, but I kept crews running. So I've got a roster of crew that own boats. I've got crew that are commercial divers. I've got crew that are lifeguards. Everybody has valid first aid. Everybody has valid oxygen provider. And I have a ton of rescue gear that I really need to look at opening a shop for soon because it's cluttering up my house. But yeah, I often send lifeguards out to set, and I just send them out. I basically recruit lifeguards. One thing to note as well is I really take pride that my crew know the film set and know the film industry. So I will always give priority to a film technician with a water safety background. Like I said, on my crew, I've got 2 other commercial divers that are camera operators. I've got a handful of grips that are either lifeguards or commercial divers. And then I actually somebody that's now in the art department. She's one of my lifeguards. It's really important to me that everybody that I work with understand set etiquette and how to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? How to present themselves on set. It's my image and my reputation is very important when it comes to that. So we have to keep all of our certifications up to date. We try to do rescue drills when we can. I write up full safety plans for every job that comes across my desk. In fact, I've been overwhelmed this week. It's incredible. I've got 2 commercials, a TV series. Oh, now 3 commercials. Yep. All for April so far. And it's not even April yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when I was looking at films in preparation for this, I was like, there aren't that many underwater shoots. And then I actually started paying attention. I'm like, there's so much where people are around water that you don't even really think of as a viewer.
So my slogan for my company is all things water for cinema. And anything from consulting, crewing, rentals, and safety, which means basically, especially in Ontario, if you're working within 9 feet of water, water safety personnel are actually required. Meaning if you're shooting out in a big, open, beautiful space, but there's a river and you might be lighting near the river, we need water safety personnel there. You're shooting at a house that has a backyard pool. You're not actually shooting in the backyard, but you are lighting in the backyard to shoot inside the house. You need water safety. Not to mention that pretty much watch any show. Most shows actually have at least one shot that's underwater somewhere. There's a lot of dream sequences. There's a lot of drowning sequences. There's a lot of, metaphorical rescues. There's a lot of real rescues. It is amazing to me as well that I can make this happen, especially in Toronto, where we're landlocked. Lake Ontario is here. I actually live closer to Lake Simcoe, but we make it all work and we can do it all. And I shoot in countless pools.
That's really fascinating. Earlier, you mentioned blacking out a pool. What does that mean exactly, and what does it entail?
So I won't give you all of my secrets of how we do it. But basically, like any stage, if it needs to be blacked out to have a completely nondescript background, or a specific color, we did one in October that actually had to
funny enough, the pool was already painted black and we needed to make it look like a real pool. So we had to put a blue liner in it. And yeah, if the pool is drained, then it would be set deck, maybe special effects that would build and do all that stuff. But if the pool is full, you would need the commercial dive crew to come in, and we build a rig or we drape the walls. We have to weigh everything down. Again, visibility is at my top priority. So again, I won't give away all my secrets, but of how we actually make all of this happen takes a crew to make it happen. And depending, I help consult with what material to choose. And I can give them all of my reasons why. You have to be aware of like things fading, colors bleeding out, particulate on the fabric that you're choosing. Will that fabric float? The very first pool that I ever had to black out, I was completely inexperienced. I was not a commercial diver yet. I was a scuba diver who liked to play with cameras. The production bought 100-foot by 100-foot black tarp. Tarpaulin is waterproof. It floats. So now you've got little me trying to black out a pool by myself, never having done it before. This was about 10 years ago. I've blacked out hundreds of pools since then. And it has since been suggested to me again to use a tarp to line a pool. And now I know better. And now I can, every job that I get, I can kind of stand my ground a little bit more in terms of the experience side for my consulting. But yeah, blacking out a pool can be intricate. I can build framing to make it absolutely seamless and perfect. It really depends on what the production's needs are. Oftentimes the background is going to be painted out anyway, so it just needs to be, it's basically negative fill. So there's various reasons why we would black out a pool, and that would help me choose what material and what route we're going to take to black it out.
Yeah, I just figured I would ask that because I was like, is it like set dressing or what's going on? So
basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's underwater set dressing kind of. So that's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something. Yeah, and it's something that, again, unless you're in it, you don't necessarily think about.
For sure.
Yeah. What was it like for you while you were pregnant and you were on set?
Very good question. I have to say that the industry has come a very long way. I was treated with the utmost respect. I know a lot of women have not had a similar experience to me. I am so proud of my peers and my colleagues. I'm feeling emotional just saying this because not only was I welcomed with open arms, I was supported. I was given breaks if I asked for them. In a COVID world where we weren't allowed to drink water on set and we had to leave to drink water, nobody questioned when I drank some water. If I said I need 5, I got to walk away. I was given those 5. I did operate one shoot pregnant. More than one. One in the water, one on land, actually. And that was not on scuba. My husband actually asked me not to scuba dive while I was pregnant. Have to respect that. Unfortunately, I turned down shooting with Aquaman. I was so upset. Not on Aquaman. It was Jason Momoa, and I had to turn down the job. I was beside myself. But sacrificed to have a really cool young lady in my life. As showing up to a set pregnant was just, again, it was enlightening. Like everybody was just so supportive. I did hear the odd joke of, oh, don't lift that, you're pregnant. Hey buddy, I was working out, I was lifting just as much as that camera weighed. It's not a problem for women to exercise when they're pregnant. If you're strong strong as in physical and working hard before you're pregnant, there's no reason to stop what you're doing unless medically necessary. I carried on with my workouts through my pregnancy. I stayed strong. Sure, I'd put on a lot of weight. Sure, I was definitely more out of breath. I had a tiny human pushing on my lungs. And bouncing back has been very difficult. Being on set as a new mom, also, just the support was absolutely amazing. I was a breastfeeding brand new mom back to work at 6 weeks. I was given a green room so that I could have breaks. I had a conference call with a production manager and the assistant director on that shoot to say, I need a break every 3 hours. No questions asked. If I say it's time, I go now. It's not, okay, give us 5. It's I go now. And I was legit given a green room, locked door, and I had the AD coming up to me saying, okay, when do we lose you? And what can we achieve while you're gone? And essentially we basically timed it. It was beautiful. We timed it to do lens changes or lighting setups or, little tweaks to the backdrop, things like that. So my dive team could keep working, but I had about 20 minutes. I took whatever time I needed, really. Let's call it 30 minutes because I had to get out of my suit. I had to pump to make meals for my baby. And if I didn't do that, I would actually lose that meal for my baby completely. And my milk supply would decline. So I was not willing to do that. So I was very clear with my needs and absolutely respected. And it was such an honor to be a woman on that set in my shoes, or in my fins, I should say.
That's fantastic. I'm glad that it was a positive experience for you.
It was really a positive experience. I've heard, in fact, I was contacted by a director about 2 weeks ago asking my experience, and I told her how amazing it was. And she went, really? Because my first, I did not experience that. I said, well, maybe that was a couple of years ago. Like right now, it was so honorable, the respect on that set. So I truly hope that other women can follow in my footsteps and be that working mom, because I have been working through pregnancy and through motherhood so far, not full time. I'm off maternity leave this coming June. I do have a show offer to be a camera assistant on. Hopefully I will take it. I'm no longer breastfeeding, so my physicality is a lot easier to deal with. But if my daughter's sick, you can bet I'm taking that time off. It's that simple.
Yeah, for sure. I also love the fact that most mothers, if the kid's misbehaving in the future, they say, I was in labor with you for so many hours, and you'll be able to be like, I turned down Aquaman for you.
Yeah, I did. I turned down Aquaman for her. It's okay. Jason Momoa loves shooting in Toronto. My opportunity is still here.
Well, that's good. But I mean, just the pop culture reference there is just, so good, man.
No. Yeah. When I found out that he was shooting C in Toronto and that we won it over Vancouver, I was like, oh my God, if they've got underwater, I get to go swimming with Aquaman. And it actually wasn't on C. Somebody else was hired for that. I was pregnant at the time. It was actually on Slumberland. And they also had hired somebody else as their topside operator because he also specializes underwater. So I teched a shoot, and then they needed 2 cameras in the water. And I went to the special effects coordinator first thing, and I said, what temperature is the water? And he said, we're keeping it around 99 degrees. I said, I can't dive. He went, why not? And I hadn't even told anybody yet. And I looked at him, I was just like, I'm pregnant. And he was like, ah! And then I had to go to the camera crew and I had to tell them because, and it actually that day was International Women's Day. So it was very appropriate. So I decided to go public that day. But to be perfectly clear, I was nervous as all hell to be honest about my pregnancy. I was very afraid that I wouldn't work all summer. I was very afraid that people would view me differently. I was very afraid that my competition would get wind of it and sweep in under my feet. And did they? A little bit. But now I'm back, and I'm back with a vengeance. So I'm going at it this year hard already.
So what was your experience as a female camera woman, and especially in such a niche area of the film industry? What's that been like for you?
It goes 2 ways. I can show up and I can literally get looked up and down And I've had people go, "You're my underwater operator?" And I look at them and say, "Yes, I am." Right. And then I also get the, "Hey, welcome to our set. We're so excited to have you. Amazing that you're doing what you do." So it truly goes both ways. On our union list and in the commercial dive world, I am the only female that does what I do. There is another woman who does what I do, commercially certified in Vancouver, and a mentor that I worked with out of Vancouver. They kind of work over there. I work over here. We all have competition. Yes, my competition is all men. I really don't like that word competition. There's a ton of work out there. There really is enough work for us to all get along. And some of them I will work side by side. Some of them we will not be in the same room together, which is kind of hard. But as a woman, I guess, I've really had it both ways where people have been shocked that it's me. I'm also really little. I'm only 5'4". So in terms of holding this like ginormous camera, that's why I exercise. That's why I work out. And I'm not just some commercial diver, and I'm not just some camera assistant. This is my passion in my life. And, you know, I've got probably close to 1,000 recreational dives, hundreds of commercial dives. My diving is what I do, and holding a camera is what I do underwater, you know? So if some guy looks at me and is like, "Really, it's you?" I'm like, "What, you want to try?" You know, I've made this my life, and the reaction really has been truly phenomenal. I've had, when I was the safety coordinator on a shoot, the location manager looking at me going, "Well, we don't even have a water safety person here." And I looked at them, I said, "Isn't that the title of my job?" They said, "Well, you're a camera operator." And I said, "Yes, and I'm also listed as the safety coordinator. I have my own boat here. I have a 4-person crew here. I've got all of the dive gear. I've got all of the rescue gear, but you're telling me you don't have a safety coordinator here?" And she went, "I'm calling a man." She actually said somebody's name, which I won't say right now. And I went, "Pardon me?" Like, what? She didn't comprehend that I could do my job. I've pulled people out of undertows, out of underwater falls. I've pulled people out of pools. You know, it's what I do. I've been doing water safety since I was 13 years old and was certified to do so. You know, so if some guy is going to tell me that I can't do my job, I'm going to prove them right. Or that was actually a woman. That was woman to woman hate, which hurts even worse. But on the other hand as well, the reaction is typically very pro. "Wow, it's you and you're doing what you're doing. I heard you were doing this. Fantastic." You know? And to be fair, most of my crew are bigger guys just because that's who we work with, you know? But do I strive to hire women? Absolutely. I certainly do.
I love how most of them are like, "Oh yeah, welcome." But I just can't get over that one woman. Like, my gosh.
I think she genuinely didn't understand that I was there as water safety. But at the same time, to look me in the eye and just hate on me just hurt. But I put her in her place. You know, it just, you just have to be straightforward. I'm friendly with everybody, but you also just have to be very blunt and very straightforward. "No, actually, that's my job. We have checked the water. This is what you are required to do." She wanted to put a boat in 2 feet of water on rocks and literally said that she was going to call this other guy because I said no. And I had my dive supervisor, who is the head of the Marine Police Department in Niagara, look at her and say, "We can't put a boat in there." And she went, "Well, the other guy said that we could." Okay. You know what? Then call the other guy. Like, what, you know? If you're asking somebody for their expertise, you know, take them up on it. It just, I think she was just super stressed and kind of fell on me. You have to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, I guess. Needless to say, we were all in knee-deep water and we did not need a boat.
That's also true. But I'm glad you look at it from the perspective of it was just you or the person that the stress finally fell on. kind of
It's
situation.
often the way on a film set.
Yeah, it happens. Is there anything that makes you hopeful for greater diversity and representation in the future in the camera department?
Yeah. My union, I.A.T.S.E 667, has, I don't know if it's mandated or they just strive towards it, but 50-50 in the camera trainee department. I know that BIPOC community, the LGBTQ plus community, all of that, there's often calls out specifically for those hires. And I think that that's just a beautiful thing. I don't like that sometimes they do it just as a checkbox. I will be the first to admit that I have lost a job opportunity, I should say, whereas there were two names in a hat and I lost the job based on the color of my skin. That hurts a lot. I'm still a woman. Aren't I still a minority? I don't know. But I am a straight Caucasian woman. So I also get it. There's other people that do need to be risen higher. I understand that. But I've also felt the wrath of this male dominant industry. And, but again, I don't want to be hired ever because I'm a girl. Never. I want to be hired for my skills. I want to be hired for my knowledge. And I treat every hire that comes my way, every resume that is sent my way, which I do get a lot of. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what genitals are in your pants. I want to know your skill set and I want to know your personality. And with that said, I think that everybody on a film set should just be an equal. It doesn't matter, again, what genitals are in your pants, what color your skin is. It has no bearing, not only in the workplace, but in a person's life. It just doesn't matter. You are who you are.
Makes sense. I have to say that you do know your stuff very clearly. And if anyone were to just hire you because you're a girl, that's just sad because you have that knowledge.
Thank you. There are sets that have also called because they look for female crew first. And, you know, I'm obviously not going to say no to it, but I don't want that to be the only reason that I hired. I would hope that they're looking at everybody. And if somebody else is truly suited more for that position than I am, then give it to that person. They deserve it.
For sure. Do you have any tips for aspiring or established filmmakers?
Smile. For anybody coming into the industry, there's a few things that I always say is, number one, it's not about what you know. It's about who you know first and then proving what you know. And if you prove to know nothing but are cocky about it, you won't get called back. So really kind of know your place on a film set. That's still kind of hard to say, but there really is a hierarchy on a film set. And I'm a very chatty person, and sometimes I put my foot in my mouth, and even I need to learn to know when to stop talking. And what I find with a lot of students, funny, I just answered this question yesterday on another survey. What I find with a lot of students that come my way is they walk out of film school going, well, I'm the next director. Well, why are you here as a grip today? Well, I shouldn't be a grip. I'm a director. Okay, but you're here as a grip today, so be a grip. Ask questions, get involved, watch, you know, but know when to ask those questions and know who to ask those questions to. And speaking of questions, my next biggest thing is ask questions. If you are unsure of anything, don't just automatically hit your walkie and go copy and run away and take an hour and bring back the wrong thing. If, you know, time is money, and especially on set, if you don't know what I am asking for, I would rather take a couple minutes to explain to you what I need, or say, you know what, let me grab it this time, but I will explain it to you later. Remember your question, or write it down. And I will always revisit that question. It's so important to me to get things done in a timely fashion and to have the right piece of equipment or whatever I need or what somebody else has requested. And the same goes for me. If I don't know what somebody is asking of me, I'm going to stop and say, sorry, can you just explain that again, or explain that in different terms? Or do you know exactly where I can find that? Because I would rather be able to get it quickly. So it's really important. Communication to me is everything.
Rightfully so. You can't get
so.
anywhere in life without communicating and being clear, concise, respectful, all those things.
Yep. Totally. That's how my relationship is. That's how my career is. And I hope that that's how I bring up my daughter.
I'm sure you will bring her up that way. Before we go, do you have any projects or social medias or anything you want to plug?
Sure. My social media is Carly Underwater. You can pretty much find me anywhere, Facebook or Instagram. I don't tweet. But my Facebook and Instagram, I would love, for you to follow my work. If you have a, background in the water safety industry, and work in the film industry, even better, hit me up, because I'm always looking for more good crew. Always. And, and I love teaching, and I love being a part of new projects and, creative things. So hit me up.
For sure, yeah. And also, for anyone listening who is into film and underwater stuff, check out her website. It's full of all kinds of goodies and tidbits. So, yeah.
And my website is carlyunderwater.com. So you can literally find me, carlyunderwater.com, at Carly Underwater, Facebook or Instagram. You'll get me.
Nice and easy, simple, bada bing, bada boom.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Carly.
Thanks for the call, Olivia. It was really nice chatting with you.
I hope you enjoyed my talk with underwater cinematographer Carly Brenner Hunter. A huge shout out to our festival partner, the Digital Arts Resource Center, for sponsoring this series. For more information about the festival, visit digi60.org. And don't forget to engage with us on Facebook at Digi60, on Twitter at Digi60Fest, and on Instagram at Digi.60 to help us keep the conversation going. I'm your host, Olivia Kiryk-Clutterbuck, and I'll be chatting with you again soon.